Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, we are here at another Distro Wars, and this is going to be a little bit different of a distro war because usually we are comparing two distributions. Today, we are going to look at two Arch installers, and so we're not going to look at the distributions as much. Our final goal is to land on a functional Arch desktop. That's our goal. And we want to compare Archlabs, which used to be more of a just an Arch system with OpenBox, I believe, but they've kind of converted last year into an Arch installer. And I'm actually running that on my One Media PC here, and I've been running it consistently for a little over a year now, about a year and 2 months. I want to say it got put on that system in January of 19, so that's how long I've been running that particular Arch system. And so I wanted to get a chance to look at that, but then let's compare this to ArcoLinux, which has also been a big system coming up for installing Arch as well. So they have slightly different targets. So starting with this, with Archlabs, the purpose in Archlabs is to get a good Arch distro up and running without a whole ton of effort. And for the most part, it works pretty well. At least here on a virtual machine, I've had an issue with the non-LTS kernel. So I'm going to go through the paths that I know are going to work well. We're going to install with minimal software, but we want to see what our options are and how easy is it to install the system. So Archlabs pretty much is focused on, hey, let's get a good functional Arch with a single download, easy Arch, and then allow you to be up and running on your Arch system. Their website is very simple, very straightforward. We have a get page where you can grab the ISO. It tells you how to do the integrity check, and then basically you should be pretty much set to go. There's release notes. There's a forum, documents. Let's go with documentation there. So you can see the application list, some frequently asked questions, basic things like this. And of course, there's contact, FAQ, Patreon, and about. So very simple, easy to download, very simple, straightforward to the point. And again, their purpose is to get an Arch system running. ArcoLinux takes a different approach. Their website is a giant chaotic mess, even jumping back and forth to multiple different websites, literally, for each of the different things. We have ArcoLinux.com. We have ArcoLinuxD.com. We probably have ArcoSomethingElse.com that I have not even found yet because their website is a giant mess. But it does have a little bit of method to the madness. The method is that ArcoLinux does not have a goal to just get you an Arch system up and running like Archlabs. Their goal is to teach you how to install Arch. So with that being said, there's different phases. So if you head on over to the Start Here button, and you look at all the various things, we have choosing your projects, pre-installations, installations, post-installations. There are a lot of videos on here, but I did find that a few of the instructions, you literally have to watch the video to find some of the things. And when I did the video the other day talking about this particular issue, and people are like, well, you got to watch this video. And I watched the video. I'm like, 15 minutes into the video is the installation instruction I need to do to get the system running. That might be somewhere on the site. I haven't found it in the chaotic mess. I'm not going to dig through the whole thing looking for that one needle in the haystack. So I would wish that that'd be a little bit more easy to find, or maybe I'm just completely missing it. But regardless, we start with choose your project. Now the phase one is just, hey, here's an Arch distro that, like Archlabs, is going to get you up and running, but it doesn't give you the options. You'll be up and running with XFCE for a traditional desktop environment. You also have OpenBox and i3. That's your phase one, getting a little bit used to Arch. Phase two is you're going to use ArcoLinux D, and then you can start with these three desktops and then teach you how to install a variety of other desktop environments, getting into phase three. And then phase four starts building your own ISO. So you grab the ArcoLinux B install, and then you work with setting up the installation you want. And then by phase five, if you're walking through all this, then you should actually have a very good fundamental understanding of how Arch works. So ArcoLinux absolutely wins if you're trying to learn the process. If you want to be up and running with a computer, you probably want to go with with Archlabs. And so let's go ahead and go to your download button over here. And your download button here, notice that we have 3 ArcoLinuxes. We have the ArcoLinux, which is your basic Arco install with 3 desktops. ArcoLinux D is an installer that's going to let you install Arch with the settings you want. And then we have ArcoLinux B, allows you to build an Arch. So ArcoLinux D is for the desktop edition, and ArcoLinux B is for build your desktop. And so we're actually going to be working with ArcoLinux D because this is closest to what Archlabs is. So it is basically an installer. And so what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and start with Archlabs. And it's been about a year since we've done this, and I have not looked at it today. So hopefully it's going to work for us. So let's go ahead and boot up a virtual machine, and then we are going to jump on over there and see if we can figure out how to get this guy running. All right, so I couldn't see exactly what all was in that screen, so hopefully the first boot option is good and ready to go. And if I remember correctly, it boots with a screen that basically gives us, hey, type this to start. And so we'll see what happens when this guy finishes booting up. All right, so here we are. We land on the screen and we have a few options. Standard install, Archlabs-installer. Run a live session, Archlabs-installer/ is a L session, and then change the installation name, so you can do that. So basically, they actually have added some things to this. It looks like they do have a live session now. That's something they have not had in the past. So let's go ahead and start with the Archlabs installer. All right. Archlabs installer. All right. Now we are going to be going through a terminal-based installation. So here, I'll help you install Archlabs, get set up on your system. If you're unsure about a section, the default option will be listed, with the first selected will be the default. So I don't really need a whole lot of help about navigating this, page ups, page downs, shifts, tabs, etc., blah, blah, blah. So sure, let's go. All right, keyboard layout, US English, beautiful choice. We are verifying everything, so we are on, let's see, installer main menu. Once it is complete, you'll return here. On successful completion, the cursor will advance to the next steps. On failure, the cursor will be placed on the step required to advance. So we do have a device tree. That's what we have. Okay, let's go with our partitioning. So we're going to do this. So we have the whole device automatic partitioning. We can do various different parted options. I'm just going to go ahead and go with the easier option, the whole device automatic partitioning. All information will be destroyed. Sure, this is a throwaway disk. Why not just go ahead and destroy it? Creating the boot partitions, creating ext4 root partitions. Now we have the auto partition set up. We have a boot and we have one for everything else. We do not want to do Lux encryption, so we're going to go ahead and skip that part. We could, and if I were doing this on a laptop or a production system, I probably would go ahead and do that. Logical volume management should be good. Mount partitions. I think we will probably have to mount a partition. So let's go ahead and mount a boot partition is probably what we're going to do. Okay, swap file. Just select whether you want to use a swap file, swap partition, or none. So I generally don't worry about that. Let's go ahead, though. I'm going to do a swap file just because I think that's going to give us the best option here. So swap setup. So it's going to automatically go with about what my system RAM is. Try to remember how much space is on this particular disk. I do not remember. I think this one's 20, so we're good with this. So there we are. We can select a bootloader. So we're going to go with the grub. We have a variety of other bootloaders. I want to go with the basic grub. Username and password. Let's go with Archlabs. My super secret password. That's definitely not 123. And I'm going to leave these ones empty. Hit my tab to get down to OK. System configuration, very standard, programmable command line interpreter. We have bash. I'm most familiar with bash. So enter a host name. Archlabs is just fine. And locality. I don't know what the cat is doing over there, but he's making a lot of noise. Hopefully you do not see it. Okay, so let's go down for find US English. Does tell us up at the top what are the most common ones. So we want EN. Am I past EN? I am past EN. EN US. This is what I want for English United States. Select your country or continent. We're going to go America, and then we can go down to find our time zone, New York. And now, vanilla Linux kernel and modules with a few patch applies. We can do the Linux LTS, Linux Zen, Linux Hardened. Actually, these were 2 more options that were not in here last time I used this. I only had 2 options before. Now, I've had issues installing it with the rolling Linux, so I am going to select the LTS on both of these options. It's just going to increase my chance of a successful install. All right, select window manager or desktop. Ooh, we have options. Options. What should we do? Oh man, I was supposed to ask people what options we wanted. We could do Plasma. We could do Fluxbox. I'm running Cinnamon on mine. Oh man, we don't have a whole ton of options. Like our traditional ones, we have Cinnamon, GNOME, Plasma. We don't have Mate. We don't have. There's a few other ones we don't have. XFCE. You know, it's been a while since I've done GNOME. Let's go with GNOME. I don't really care for GNOME, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and do GNOME. All right. Which kind of login management? Since we are using GNOME, I definitely want to go GDM. So I don't think it matters, but I don't remember for sure. But I know for sure GDM with GNOME is going to work just fine. Okay. So other people are actually telling me in the comments, do GNOME, do GNOME. All right, select additional packages. So this is where we can go in and select. We're just going to look at these for the purpose of time. I don't want to install anything extra. So you can see here I can install a variety of things. So Chromium, Clementine, I can do Evolution, Firefox, Geary, GIMP. We're not going to select anything here simply for the purpose of time. Anything I do is going to take extra time. Very simple matter. Find what you want, hit your space bar, select it. Hit your space bar again, deselect it. Here's some Steam, things like that. We're good with that. Run a command on the installed system. We are good without running any extra commands. View configurations. Okay, and confirm choices and start the installation. So hopefully if I did everything, it should actually go through and install the entire system. It should automatically install without stopping for anything. So you'll see there how to proceed with installation. Yes, no, I did not have to hit anything. It should automatically answer yes to everything in the installer. So now it's just going online, grabbing all the packages. It looks like it's downloading 700 megabytes. It's going to be installing just under 3 gigabytes. And so the net upgrade size is 1.3 gig. Did I say just under 3 megabytes? That was the gigabytes. My apologies. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let this thing do its thing, and then we will jump back on when it's done doing its thing and see what the next steps happen to be. All right, so we got down to the very final part there, and I don't know, it took like about, 10, 20 minutes. I didn't keep track. So we have our finished. We can exit the installer. We can go and view a lot of the other items. We're going to go ahead, exit the installer, and reboot. Of course, to do that, I actually have to come over here and push the button on the screen, not with my mouse somewhere else. Although I think, hold on, I need to power off. I need to kick the ISO out because the thing about Arch systems, they never kick the ISO out for you. So there we go. Kick the ISO out. Then we'll go ahead and reboot. All right, so it looks like Grub booted up. It gave us the options to get everything set up. Let's see if we actually land on a desktop with Archlabs. So far looking okay. We actually have a mouse pointer over here and a blank line. So Let's see if we accomplish our goal, and if we do, then we jump on over. Oh, look at this! Look at this! Look at this! Super secret passwords. Definitely not 123. We have GNOME, GNOME Classic, GNOME on Xword. Let's go with GNOME on X because that generally runs better in a VirtualBox. All right, it looks like we have landed on a ArchLabs desktop. Look at this snazziness. We have web, we have files, we have the software store, basic information here, just basic applications. Pretty much nothing but GNOME with its basic applications. Let's go ahead and have a look at our settings inside of here. See if this guy, no application data found. I think I might actually have to set up a repository to get this to work. Shell, let's see. So yeah, I'd actually have to go in here and set up some repositories in here to get this to work. So we're not going to fault that because that's kind of something you do. However, I will point out that a new user may not know how to do that. Although if you're using this, you probably aren't the newest user. Well, anyway, there's ArchLabs. So install was pretty easy, all terminal based. You need to know and be comfortable with using the keyboard commands throughout the process of your terminal installer. So with that being said, though, we did land on our desktop. We seem to have stuff seems to be working and functioning, and despite my GNOME software not showing up with any software, I should be able to boot up a terminal without a problem and do anything here through Pacman if I want to. So do we have a terminal? There we go. I was going to say, I hope we have a terminal, folks. Let's do sudo pacman SYU to update, I believe. Super secret password. It's definitely not 123. Nothing to do. All right, I have a kitty on my desk, so it's kind of interfering. All right, so there we are. We have an ArchLabs system. So now let's go ahead and give ArcoLinux a try. So we'll go ahead and boot back over on ArcoLinux. Okay, so here we are on ArcoLinux. We have a variety of options to choose from. Go ahead and pick the default option, get booted up here, and see what we end up with on ArcoLinux. Okay, so on ArcoLinux, we actually boot up onto a actual living, breathing desktop environment for our installation. We have the option here to run gparter or run Calamaris. This one here, Calamaris sometimes fails if we have a disk already set up that doesn't have anything necessarily to do with your installer here. So just of an abundance of caution, I'm just going to go ahead and delete all the partitions and create a new ext format. That's something that because we're using the Calamaris installer here, I have found sometimes the installer will fail if I don't do that. So that's not a criticism of ArcoLinux, that's the installer itself. But you do have here a more point-and-click installer, and so a point-and-click installer is generally a little bit more user-friendly. So let's go ahead and walk through this guy here. Now we have the option to choose a variety of different things here. So again, we have a lot of settings here. So we are, once again, we're basically going to build an identical system. Linux LTS kernel without any NVIDIA. If you are running NVIDIA, we have options here, which one you want to use. We have Intel and AMD U code. We have Bluetooth support, laptop support. So one of the things that I see here out of the box is we have a little bit more options for enabling or disabling certain things. If I don't want to install sound, hey, I can leave sound completely off. No big deal. All right, we are going to use the same login manager, GDM, and the same desktop, unfortunately, even though the last one took a while, just because I want to give them, I basically want to go through everything as thoroughly as possible. And so we're going to show that we have other options for software packages here as well. I'm going to choose not to install anything else. It might give us a bunch of other things that are going to come with a GNOME. So you can see here, GNOME, GNOME Extra, ArcoLinux GNOME Get, ArcoLinux config GNOME Get, basic stuff. And then everything else I'm going to leave as is to hopefully have a very similar setup. So you can see that this one out of the box is a lot more user-friendly for a new user, just because it's going to be more comfortable to point and click versus use your terminal. So let's go with ArcoLinux. Enter our super secret password. That's definitely not 123. We're going to leave these blank just like the same. So use the same password for the administrator account. Now we're going to go through the basic summary and we're starting the installation process. So this one here, in my experience, actually should install quite a bit quicker. It's already past the part where it would be partitioning. So if Calamars was going to fail on the G-parted step, it would have already done so. So now we're going to go ahead and pause the video and come back when this is done with its installation, and then we'll see what we have from there. All right, so now we're all done. That one took a little bit less time. So I'd probably say maybe that was about 10 minutes maybe. So I'm going to tick off the restart now just because we're on a virtual machine and it will not allow us to kick out that ISO image. So we're just going to shut down, kick out the ISO image like we did the last time, and go ahead and reboot. So let's see what happens. My prediction is we're going to land on a login prompt because that is what ArcoLinux D does, which despite having the more user-friendly installer, the very next steps, and this is the part that wasn't particularly clear, and I wasn't able to find this. So now we just need to get logged in. So we'll go ahead and enter my super secret password. That's definitely not 123. We get over here, and now what we need to do is sudo, is it systemctl, I believe, enable GDM. I believe that's what we need to do. Enter my super secret password. That's definitely not that. Now we need to see where it says created system link. And so that enabled my GDM services. So let's go ahead and do a system reboot. If I can type, it's very hard to type when I'm typing over a cat. The cat is in my way. It's like, dude, stop typing on me. All right, so now it should boot into that. So that's the step that I really wish that the thing would detect which window manager or which login manager you're using, and I wish they would automatically go to that, but it doesn't. So that's the one step that you do need to do when you are running ArcoLinux, and hopefully this is getting us an installation. So look at this. It's not full screen like the other one is. Here we have GNOME. We have GNOME on X, so that's when we're going to do. Enter my super secret password. It's definitely not 123. And we should land on a desktop. This one looks as though it's not booting full screen like the other one did. Let's go ahead and see if the full screen, though, is an option out of the box on this one. All right, looks like it will be an option out of the box. I'll go ahead and apply that. Keep the changes, and there we are. So let's see what we have here. It does look like we have essentially the same software, pretty much just vanilla GNOME with all of the garbage put inside of it. Ooh, look at this. This is already set up to use and install, though. So it does look like ArcoLinux probably gets us a little bit better experience out of the box because we have a functional functional software store out of the box without doing any extra steps. We do have Evolution installed, which I didn't tell it to, but I guess that brought Evolution with GNOME. That's okay with me. That's one of the things I would install anyway. And I'm not really seeing any other major issues. There is a ArcoLinux welcome screen, although it did not boot when we first booted the thing up. But you can come over here, choose your projects. We can show it on startup. Not sure why it didn't show it to me on startup, but it is an option that is there. So there is ArcoLinux. Overall, out of the box, they have, ArcoLinux has its advantages. ArchLabs has its advantages. ArchLabs lands us directly there, but we have a little bit harder installer because it's going to be a terminal-based installer. And the Software Center is not populated. It doesn't have the scripts needed to run the Software Center out of the box. ArcoLinux, this gives us the full-fledged system as long as we know to log in the first time, enable GDM, and then it will enable you to boot. It looks like overall, ArcoLinux might be slightly better, particularly because its goal is to teach you how to do Arch through a stepwise method. I do wish the site was a little bit more organized, a little bit less busy, but that's kind of my thoughts. Is one of these absolutely better or worse than the other? I don't think so. It really just kind of boils down to what your purpose and what your needs happen to be. So both these we were able to get working live without consulting documentation, so that's good. Of course, I did have to look up how to fix that GDM issue. So overall, there's my take on ArcoLinux versus Archlabs. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these Arch installers you happen to like the most. And we'll see you next time for another edition of DistroWars. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already subscribed. Like the video, leave me some comments, and we will catch you next time.